The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, a Good Omens multi-voice podfic written by Waywarder and read by
SkyAsimaru
and Djapchan. Chapter 2, Entacmaea Quadricolor. Clock strikes upon the hour, and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out how to chase my blues away.
Attention everyone! The aquarium will be closing in 5 minutes. Please make your way to the exit located through the gift shop. Thank you.
As soon as he was safely down the hallway and alone in the empty dolphin theater, Aziraphale knew he must have absolutely, what's the phrase, blown it.
Oh dear,
he said out loud, pausing to take a seat in the bleachers, bringing a hand up to his soft hair. His head buzzed with the recently imbibed prickly pear vodka and with the memory of Crowley. Tall, handsome, curious Crowley, who had wandered up to the dolphin habitat on Pride Night, making even that ridiculous caterer's uniform look positively dashing and—
oh dear,
he moaned again, a bit louder, wishing he'd thought to steal at least one more bottle of booze. First of all, Aziraphale liked almost anyone who was clever enough to figure out how to get to the dolphin exhibit in the first place. It was confusingly configured, after all. There was an exit sign glowing angrily red in the hallway before one even found the dolphins. Aziraphale didn't always mind the confusion so much. He always requested to spend the shift with the dolphins and not so much with people. He liked it best up there first thing in the mornings when the aquarium had just opened, when he was still nursing his tea and there was no one around but him and the dolphins and the early sunlight. Aziraphale had worked at the aquarium long enough at this point to know that no one ever figured out to come see the dolphins before it was time for one of their shows. So he often snuck a pack of biscuits up to the exhibit with him, and he'd sit on the carpeted floor before the habitat and have a lovely little second breakfast with his favorite marine mammals. His plans for Pride Night had been no different. He suspected the partygoers wouldn't want to stray far from their open bars, and so Aziraphale picked the farthest away from the bar spot he could imagine. Nicked liquor secure in his pocket, he'd expected a perfectly lovely, admittedly lonely night of celebration. Which was fine. Pride felt like a celebration for the young, for the beautiful. Not for the fussy old aquarium docent with the sneaky tea and biscuits. Aziraphale liked the dolphins best because of their cleverness. He loved all the animals in the aquarium.
all creatures, great and small,
he would tell you, but there was something about making eye contact with a bottlenose dolphin. Aziraphale admired their big brains, their graceful strength, their social aptitude. On certain early, lonely mornings, Aziraphale would brush the biscuit crumbs off of his uniform shirt and long to trade places with one of the dolphins. Where were we? Yes, second of all, Aziraphale liked anyone who asked questions. He hated the guests who seemed entitled to the animals, as if the animals owed them something. A performance, a show, their best behavior. As if their presence was not a joy enough. It's why he always bristled at the bored questions.
What do they do?
well, what do you do?
Aziraphale always longed to counter, as though human beings were always so useful. Crowley had watched Aziraphale and the dolphins as though he could have kept questioning and learning all night long. As he threaded his fingers deeper into his own hair, Aziraphale lamented all the dolphin facts he still had to share, all the questions he himself had.
Who are you? Would you like to know about any other animals? I know a lot about other animals as well. Let me impress you. Let me make you smile.
Aziraphale blushed at the thought. He'd been too much with Crowley. Yes, as he replayed the conversation in his head, he wanted to sink deeper and deeper into his seat. A tall, handsome man saunters into the dolphin exhibit on Pride Night like something out of a gay fairy tale, and you just ramble on and on and on? Yes.
Blown it.
A familiar chirp squeak pulled Aziraphale out of his misery. He looked up at the huge open pool before him.
1.8 million gallons of water, you know, connected to 4 other pools behind the scenes.
He would have told you, and despite his woes, smiled.
Good evening, my dear.
Aziraphale stood from the bleachers and crossed down to the window to properly greet Audrey. Audrey was a beautiful, juvenile female dolphin, currently turning idle circles in front of the pool window and casting curious glances at the forlorn Aziraphale.
And a happy pride to you, too.
Aziraphale smiled. He knew he was a bit ridiculous, but he could never help it. The animals felt like his friends, so he found himself speaking to them constantly. Audrey fixed him with a brilliant stare, and, in the empty silence of the vast auditorium, Aziraphale could hear her trills and whistles.
What's wrong?
He imagined her asking. The lady dolphins were the polite ones, after all.
Well, my dear.
Aziraphale brought a hand up to the window.
The most interesting gentleman was in here earlier, and I'm afraid I rather botched it.
How did you manage to botch it so fast, Aziraphale?
He interpreted the next squeak.
Oh.
He admitted, sadly, softly, only ever to a dolphin.
I'm afraid I was myself.
Aziraphale strolled into the break room half a minute behind schedule the next morning, which was not his custom. Only, you see, well, he'd stayed behind in the Dolphin Theatre the night before, feeling sorry for himself, until the custodial staff came to kick him out, and then he'd found his way into a glass or two of nice wine at home, before curling up with one of his favorite stories, and he was late. Too late to get his first pick of rotation assignments. He sipped his tea, willing the warmth and sweetness to bring something like life back to him, as the captain for the day, Michael, passed him a small slip of paper. SS Touch Pool. Aziraphale sighed.
Oh.
That's what he got for being late. Nothing against the Sea Stars and Sea Anemones who called the touch pool their home, but it was also probably the most challenging assignment the aquarium docent, begging crowds to follow the rules, to touch the animals gently, to be kind.
Treat sea stars the way you would like to be treated.
Aziraphale was fond of saying, and he quite meant it. After the morning meeting, Aziraphale couldn't tell you what was discussed. He was lost in memories of bright red hair and curious eyes. Aziraphale crossed the atrium in pursuit of the cold water gallery. He entered from the exit, as he always did, eager to make a complete loop of the gallery and bid a good day to all the animals before he settled at his post.
Hello, funny friends.
He greeted the penguins, the sea otters, the gigantic spider crabs. Finally, he slipped behind the chilled wet rock of the SS touch pool. After arranging his tea so it wouldn't spill into the pool, he placed his hands on the rocks and leaned forward.
And good morning to you as well, dears.
The sea stars and sea anemones didn't have much to say in response, but Aziraphale liked to imagine they appreciated the consideration all the same. Aziraphale checked his watch and took a deep breath. It was opening time right on the dot. Soon his quiet little haven of sea stars and tea would be a mass of pushing, shouting humans. On these mornings it was much more of a challenge for Aziraphale to remember why he did what he did. Still,
Empathy.
Aziraphale whispered to himself.
We make changes through empathy.
Because maybe someone had never seen a sea star in person before. Maybe he'd never marveled at feeling the texture of the creature beneath their own fingertips. Maybe the joy they would experience at meeting this animal in person would inspire them to make little changes in their own life, to recycle, to conserve, to educate. Despite all the pushing and shouting, the world was a good place with good people. Aziraphale just knew it, and this is how he could contribute to that goodness. By rolling up his shirt sleeves and turning his little microphone on and teaching the world about sea stars.
Good morning, friends.
Aziraphale called as the first group of little ones and their already harried parents approached the touch pool.
What are they?
Hollered the first tiny one, already jumping up on top of the rocks to get a closer look.
Oh, my dear, please don't stand on the rocks themselves. They do get quite slippery.
Well, how is she supposed to see them?
Snapped one of the adults in the group immediately.
For the safety of our guest as well as the animals,
Aziraphale recited, panic boiling in his belly. He hated confrontations like these.
we do ask that guests not stand directly on the rocks. If you look to your left, you'll find a little set of steps.
The adult rolled their eyes and snatched the child away, positioning them now on the aforementioned steps. The child and her fellows all pressed their bellies against the rocks, craning their heads as close to the water as possible.
Now, it's quite chilly.
Aziraphale warned kindly.
Does anyone know how we touch the animals?
The children all shook their heads, looking up at him with wide eyes. Aziraphale opened his mouth to further instruct, but he was interrupted by a quite unexpected drawl.
2 fingers.
Aziraphale looked up from the cold water, only to find his own eyes growing wide in astonishment.
Crowley!
He exclaimed, immediately regretting the horrifying amount of delight in his voice.
However did you know that?
Crowley, standing tall and handsome just behind the gaggle of children, seemed to flush a little at the question.
It says it on the sign, doesn't it?
It did, and oh, a man who pays attention to the signage. He wasn't wearing his white uniform today. No, he was clad all in black, looking impossibly sleek and cool, and he'd actually used the free ticket Aziraphale had given him, and one of the adults at the touch pool cleared their throat, and Aziraphale flinched.
Ahem.
Right, you're still at work. Our friend is absolutely correct.
Aziraphale turned his attention back to the children.
We use 2 gentle fingers to interact with our animal friends.
Why?
One of the children wanted to know.
Well,
Aziraphale explained, happy to answer as many questions as they had.
1 finger is a lot like poking, and more than 2 fingers is a lot like grabbing.
Do they bite?
Another of the children asked nervously.
That's a very good question. The funny thing about sea stars is that their mouths are actually on the other side of their bodies, so we won't be touching anywhere near their mouths.
The child seemed unconvinced.
Would you like me to go first?
Aziraphale asked him, daring to dart his eyes bravely back to Crowley. He had sidled up closer to the pool now, hands shoved into his pockets, leaning down to examine the water. Aziraphale wanted to warn him about his sunglasses. What if they fell off into the water? But the children were already nodding enthusiastically, and Aziraphale had a job to do. He presented his 2 fingers with a flourish before dipping them slowly beneath the surface of the chilled water. There was a great big pink sea star latched to the rock just in front of him, so Aziraphale gently touched his fingers against the creature's soft, scratchy body and stroked softly.
See?
Aziraphale looked up at the children.
It doesn't hurt at all. Would you like to try?
They all did. Aziraphale coached them through touching as many of the animals as their little arms could reach. He praised them for their gentleness towards the stars and anemones. He gave them a fond little wave as they scampered away to the next exhibit. He took a small breath and turned back to
2 fingers, eh?
Crowley asked, looking skeptical.
Oh, it really is a magnificent experience.
Aziraphale assured him.
They look like little alien beasts.
Crowley frowned, gaze seemingly fixed on one of the anemones.
How do I know they aren't going to grab me and suck me down to the depths?
A valid concern. They are a bit sticky, you know. But I think you're a bit too big to be on the lunch menu.
All right, then.
Crowley pushed up his own jacket sleeves, and Aziraphale felt his eyes growing large again at the sight of his lean, wiry forearms. Crowley extended 2 long fingers, and Aziraphale clenched his jaw as tightly as he could.
Don't be strange, Aziraphale. Don't be too much.
Fuck!
Crowley exclaimed as his fingers made contact with the surface of the pool. He jerked his hand back and looked back up at Aziraphale.
Oh, sorry. Shit. Sorry. I didn't mean to,
It's quite all right.
And it was. It was still too early in the morning for huge crowds. For this wonderful moment, at least, the touch pool belonged to the 2 of them.
Why is it so cold?
Crowley asked, hand hovering above the surface of the water.
Well, these creatures are native to the northeast Pacific Ocean, so it's quite chilly in their natural habitat.
That's nice that you keep it cold for them. Not a fan myself, but it's nice for them.
We do our best to ensure the comfort of all our animals.
Aziraphale said, thrilled at the opportunity to share more knowledge with this lovely creature.
Okay,
Crowley let out a little breath.
the little kids could do it, so can I.
You can.
Aziraphale promised him. Crowley's fingers stepped again below the surface of the water and sought out a vivid orange tube anemone. He hesitated.
Where do these ones like to be touched?
Crowley looked back up to Aziraphale for guidance.
You can touch the sides.
Aziraphale demonstrated, his own hands joining Crowley's now in the cold water.
Or you can gently touch the anemones themselves.
Don't they sting?
They do, actually. But again, we're so much bigger, and our skin is so much thicker. We're in no danger.
Hell of a way to start the day.
Crowley managed a little lopsided grin at him, and Aziraphale felt his insides go a bit wobbly. Aziraphale looked back down below the surface to watch as Crowley's fingers slowly, softly, gently pressed against the column of the sea anemone.
It's so soft.
Crowley marveled, looking down into the water himself now.
That's it.
Aziraphale encouraged him, his voice lower and softer than he meant it.
You're doing wonderfully.
Gonna touch a tentacle thing.
Yes.
Crowley looked back up at Aziraphale as his fingertips made contact with the swaying tentacle.
I can feel it sticking to me a bit.
Yes. Isn't it extraordinary? Let me show you every extraordinary thing.
Crowley started after a moment.
Thanks for the ticket. I've never properly been here.
Oh, it really is a wonderful place.
Aziraphale said, eyes still watching their hands touching the anemone.
I'm so glad I could help you see it.
So, what else is there?
Crowley asked, finally returning his hand to dry land.
Oh, goodness, where to start?
Really?
Crowley wiped his hand off on his dark-tied trousers, and Aziraphale lamented not having shown him to the hand-washing station just to their right.
Now I feel like I need you to keep telling me about all the animals.
There was that grin again. Aziraphale was done for.
I'm helpless without you, I'm afraid.
I'm unbreaking.
The rush of words tore themselves free from Aziraphale's throat.
What's that?
Breathe, Aziraphale. I'm on my lunch break at noon. We could meet in front of the staircase, and I could give you a little tour.
And for a moment, Aziraphale felt panic rising in his chest. There he was again, being too much, being too strange, being too...
All right.
What's that?
Aziraphale asked himself this time.
Tour sounds nice.
Crowley said, reaching up to trail still damp fingers through his tousled crimson hair.
Excellent,
Aziraphale declared, over the sound of his own ruined heartbeat.
I shall see you in just a few hours, then.
Crowley gifted him one more grin before ambling away to examine the spider crabs. Aziraphale gazed after him because...
You're beautiful.
Aziraphale thought quietly to himself. Just then one of his co-workers walked up to the touch pool to send Aziraphale to his next position in the day's rotation. When Aziraphale gathered his tea and began his journey across the atrium, he felt a little like he was floating. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody who loves me. To be continued in part 3.